see my slides?
Yeah.
Yep, embracing fear and self-doubt with little mountains.
That's right.
Okay.
Yay.
Let's do this. Kara, over to you. Thank you for presenting today.
Yeah, awesome. Let me just adjust so that I can see the chat here. Hang on one.
I apologize for the craziness and getting my drop out. So
Oh, no worries.
Looks like it
I
worked.
mean,
You're all still on.
yeah, and that's just part of doing stuff online, isn't it? You know?
yeah,
Okay, well, hi again, everybody. I'll reintroduce myself real quickly. I'm Kara Johnson, and so for those of you that don't know me, so I've spoken to this group once before, and I do a lot of speaking actually at NocoNet in Fort Collins, because that's where I am located. But my background is in counseling and career development, so the counseling piece really does affect my work with people and what I choose to talk about. So obviously I work with people on job search strategies and things like that. But today I really wanted to focus on the mindset stuff because I feel like that is the stuff that doesn't get talked about quite enough when it comes to job searching. We talk about tips and tricks for, how to, improve your resume or how to use this strategy in your job search. And those are all fine and great and wonderful. And I think a lot of us are working through personal, mental, emotional stuff. And I just think it's good to normalize that and talk about it. So that's exactly why I chose this topic. So, and if you know me too, I really like to make my talks more conversational, and not just me talking at you because I feel like that's really boring. And I'm certainly not the expert in your life, right? So that's why I really like to have this be more of a conversation because you all have lots of insight and wisdom to share with one another. So I might ask some questions or prompt some reflection. But really, I just like to start a dialogue between the group. So, but we'll just kind of jump in. And also don't feel bad if something comes up and you have a comment or something you'd like to share. I will not be upset if you interrupt me. So just know that if something comes up and you have something that you feel like would be appropriate to share, go for it. But so just by a show of hands, like use your raise the hand feature. Have you ever experienced anxiety during the job search process? Great, so I'm seeing some hands go up. I'm guessing probably everybody. Yeah. It's a very normal experience, right, to feel anxiety when it comes to job searching. So, and feel free to unmute or put in the chat, raise your hand if you'd like to, or put your hand down for this. And then if you want to share, raise it again so I can call on people. But what aspects of the job search process create anxiety for you? Does anyone want to share? Again, feel free to put it in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and I'll call. Chris? Would you like to share? Or is your hand raised from just before?
Oh, sorry if that's me. I had a teenage interruption. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
What was the question?
Oh, and if you don't want to respond, that's okay. I just thought your hand was up to respond.
Oh, no, you had said raise your hand if you'd ever felt anxiety in the job search. This is my 8th layoff, so yes, absolutely. Over the last 20 years and 8 layoffs, lots of anxiety.
Yeah, and so my next question was what aspects of the job search process create fear and anxiety? And if you feel comfortable sharing, go ahead. If you don't, then don't.
Oh no, I'm an open book. I'm happy to talk about this stuff.
Awesome.
This time around, probably the anxiety is because of the down economy in the tech industry. There haven't been a lot of full-time jobs out there. So now it's loss of insurance, myself and my family. Loss of income obviously is a stress point. And when is the next job coming? It's an election year. Tech industry is a bloodbath. So when will the next job come? How am I going to diversify enough to keep myself and my family afloat? And certainly in the comfort of my college students that, heading to college, making sure they have soup when they're sick, et cetera. So that's all anxiety ridden is the uncertainty of when, right? The job will come, but when?
Yeah. Yeah, all of that. I mean, just that, right? Like that's yeah, no big deal, right?
Yeah,
Um
easy.
just those little things. No big deal. Thanks for sharing, Chris. Pete, did you want to share?
Yes.
Oh, there you
Okay,
go.
sorry. Yeah, I think Chris kind of nailed it. She said a lot of stuff that I was going to say, but I think the biggest thing is not knowing when you're going to get your next, opportunity. You're going to get it. It's just a matter of time, but not knowing when, that's the trick. And then, making time for balance. And when you have this free time, to make sure you do stuff that you like and explore new opportunities as far as hobbies and learning and other stuff. So it's a fine balance, but yeah, I hear you. There's ups and downs every day.
Yeah, the uncertainty, and then also trying to use this opportunity if you're unemployed, like how can I bring in more of my personal hobbies and things that bring me joy? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Tanya?
Yes, my anxiety comes from I've been self-employed, but it's more of a hobby. And through COVID, it just kind of wiped me out. So even though it's still on life support, it's still going. So I haven't been in the workforce for 4 years. And so I have anxiety about my my abilities. I know that I'm extremely capable and a great find, but when interviewing, I just can't seem to find the words to talk about myself and my accomplishments in a way that really shows and highlights my value. And that's from anxiety of like I could talk about anybody else but not myself.
Yep. I'm in that camp too. I can talk all day long about anything, but when it comes to myself, that's really hard. And I'm just looking through the chat too, just some of the things that are coming up. So not receiving feedback after submitting applications and rejection, interviewing, that's coming up, networking as an introvert. Yeah. Yep, interviewing, sounds like that is a big stressor for people, which I can totally relate to. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. Yeah, so I like to talk about just some ways that fear and self-doubt and anxiety can come up that aren't always obvious. And so this is another one where I like to hear how some of these things come up for you. Does anyone talk bad to themselves? Like have that like just negative narrative going through your head all the time? So that inner critic, anyone struggle with that? Like, oh, you're never going to get a job. You don't know how to write a resume. You suck at interviewing. Who has those thoughts that go through their head? I'm just trying to read through. Okay. Yeah, all of the above times 10, Luis, yep. Anyone want to share something specific that's coming up for you, like on this list? So again, inner critic, negative self-talk, perfectionism. I always like to hear how these things come up for people, or if people are like, I'm not sure what that means when it comes to job searching or what that looks like. Second guessing yourself, comparison, procrastination, failing to start or giving up super easily after a rejection, isolating yourself from other people, Anyone want to share specific to them? Looks like Natalie, you have your hand up. Do you want to share?
Yeah, sure. So I've been out for a long time as well. I've been out for 4 years almost. And yeah, it's just looking at job descriptions and then not or failing to find those transferable skills that I know I have, but trying to figure out how to apply them and then talking to myself like, you don't have that. You don't have enough experience. You don't have this. So yeah, it's tough when you're trying to, in my case, I'm trying to transfer myself to maybe another industry that has more jobs. And yeah, not being able to talk myself into the fact that, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, like the imposter syndrome. You know you have the skills, but you also feel like you don't have the skills and no one's going to want you. Yeah. Just looking through the chats more. Anyone else have something they want to share relating to any of these or how they come up for you?
It's kind of related to what Natalie was saying. For me, I have, I feel reasonably good about the technical, aspects of it, of a position, or at least to be able to ramp up, in a particular application or set of applications. That doesn't concern me so much as the social aspects of it. I'm going to be, involved with whatever cohort I'm going, with a significantly younger cohort.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going through things in their lives that are different from the things that I'm going through in my life. And I'm just fearful about bridging, or attempting to bridge that gap, about what that's going to be like of a somewhat, working with or interacting with folks that are my kids' age or younger.
Yeah.
You know,
So feeling kind of intimidated. Can I relate?
can I relate to that? Can they relate to me? Are they going to be writing myself off as a, white male dude boomer? And am I, am I lost before I start? That's my big bugaboo right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. Relating
And I don't
to
know
other
whether any
people.
sweet talk is going to be able to help that, frankly.
Yeah. What about Laura? Did you have something to share?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think it's funny, it's kind of applying for a job, like, and obviously, I'm experienced with applying, my resume is good. I have an okay portfolio. But it's funny how, to me at least, like applying for a job, it feels like an audition. And it's
Yeah.
and there are a million reasons why you don't get the spot. They could all already have somebody kind of lined up, but they need to do due diligence as far as advertising the position and that kind of thing. It's not necessarily personal if I don't get it, but I don't know. I mean, the putting yourself out there just over and over again. I mean, it's scary, and it's I guess you get, for lack of a better phrase, emotionally involved in the applications that you've put out and everything like that. But I know that there are lots of good people out there who do what I do, and I've seen their work, and it's incredible. And it's like, wow. I mean, I hear like an inner critic just telling me, well, you're going to have to stand in line. You're going to have to wait until the market gets a lot better, and all these people who are better than you get a job before you even have a shot, and I mean, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, I sent out 1,000 resumes last month or something like that. I don't even bother applying for a job unless I have some kind of internal connection, where I can send my resume in through their portal, like, hey, this person is your connection. Or if the job looks pretty much perfect for me, just those two things. And that's still, that still leaves plenty of openings for me to apply to. But at the same time, it's like, there's definitely anxiety and fatigue that goes along with the whole process. It's like, God, why am I doing this? Why am I?
Like, what's the point? It's not going to do any good. Yeah.
Right.
Like, all of that. Well, it sounds like there's some comparison going on there. Like that's a big one, I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
for a lot of people, like comparing yourself to these imaginary other people that are applying for the same job, right? And they're all better than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all do that to some degree.
I mean, can I say something else?
Yeah,
I mean, with ourselves, we see ourselves when we roll out of bed in the morning, or when we're exhausted, or when we're dirty. We've been working out in the yard, we look like hell, that kind of stuff. But we only see everybody else, we only see their highlight reel,
yeah,
LinkedIn, everybody's, oh, I'm super professional, I kick ass. And
yeah.
that's
The
all you see
Instagram
there.
version of everybody, that's what you get to see. Yeah.
Right. So that's very intimidating.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a good point, is that we compare ourselves to other people and we're seeing them, from the outside, whereas we're seeing us from the inside. And so we know all the negative self-talk that's going on. We know what we looked like when we got up this morning, but we don't know all of that stuff about other people. And the only thing we have to compare ourselves to is this like very polished version of other people, or like sometimes it's not even that, like we're just making it up in our head. Like again, I see this a lot with job seekers. They're comparing themselves to literally imaginary other applicants who they don't know, but they're just assuming everyone's more qualified than them for jobs, which is really, it's self-sabotaging for sure. Yeah, just second guessing ourselves. Other things that are coming up for people. I'm just trying to like read through the chat. Let me look real quick. Oh, okay. It's like there's, yeah, feeling like nothing I do to improve my resume actually makes a difference in getting, yeah, through job applications. Yeah, definitely agree on the danger of having the wrong answer. I think that is that in relation to interviewing. I think that might be. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Sorry, just trying to backtrack a little bit and look at the chat so I'm not forgetting anybody. Yeah. Does anyone get stuck in the procrastination? So putting off applying for jobs, or just always updating your resume constantly, but not actually like putting stuff out there because that's scary. Anyone do that? Or giving up after, a rejection or two, which we all know you're going to get probably far more than that, right? So having to build a thick skin. Anything else that anyone wants to share about how these things come up for them before we kind of move on and talk about what we can actually do to address some of this stuff? Okay. So, yeah, let's talk about that. It's all fine and good. We all experience this stuff, right? So I just want to normalize that. And at the end of the day, I think probably why most of us are here is to talk about, okay, well, what can I do about it? Are there ways to work through that? And I think the first thing to just acknowledge is that all of this is normal and everyone experiences it. So trying to get rid of it is not really a realistic expectation. So it's more about understanding, accepting, and then learning how to work through it and figuring out strategies that work for you. Because what works for one person isn't necessarily going to be what works for somebody else. So I have some, ideas and suggestions, but I'd also love to hear from everybody else in terms of what works for you or what has worked for you. Because again, I think there's a lot of shared wisdom in this room. And so people probably have some really great tips and ideas of things that could work, or might be helpful. But when we're thinking about the inner critic, because I think that's a really big one that happens to most of us, is, just that constant inner dialogue about how you're not good enough. So really thinking through that, I think the most important part is awareness. Recognizing that it's even happening first, right? But then kind of catching that and flipping the script a little bit. So again, some of those statements that might be going through your head of, no one's gonna hire me. I'm not good at writing resumes. I'm not good at interviewing, or talking about myself. everyone has more qualifications or is more skilled than I am. So really just taking a minute to think about, okay, where am I getting this information? Is it true? Right? What evidence do I have to support this? And is it helpful? Because most of the time it is not helpful, right? So really thinking about, and when it's the question of, is it true? It might feel true, but when you really think about it and think about like, what evidence do I have to support this? It's probably a pretty flimsy argument. We're really good at thinking about all the ways we don't measure up and how we're not good enough, and we're not great at thinking about how we're awesome and how we do have the skills and the experience and that we're, fully qualified to do whatever it is that we're trying to do. Anyone else have some things that work for them when they notice their inner critic coming up? What works for you to kind of deal with that?
I have something.
Hi, Mary.
Hi. It is really, really hard to receive rejections, especially when it's one in your mind, you think, oh, this is it, right? You're emotionally attached. But I have found that understanding maybe that really wasn't the best match. For whatever reason, sometimes I might hear something about the organization, like, oh, maybe that wouldn't have been a good environment for me. That overall that there is a meaning or a reason, and that the right place will come at the right time. And that does help me understand that it's not all under my control, to remember that and just release it.
Oh, I think that's so great. Like just focusing on what is in your control. I think a lot of times we spend so much energy focusing on things that are just completely out of our control, which, to be honest, in a job search process, a lot of it is just plain out of our control, right? You have control over your actions and, what you do on your end. Yes, you can update your resume. Yes, you can, polish your interviewing skills. You can reach out to people and make connections. But in terms of, is that going to land you an interview? Are you going to get a call back? Are you going to get hired? Those things are very much not in your control, and they have so much to do with things behind the scenes that you may not understand. It's not always because you don't have the right skills. A lot of times it's a timing thing, or you don't know if they have someone internal already in mind, or all these different factors, again, that you just don't necessarily know are at play. But we tend to internalize and make it all about like, oh, I'm just not measuring up. And a lot of times it really has nothing to do with you. But that's not to say that it doesn't still feel yucky when it happens, for sure. Anyone else have something they want to say relating to this or anything else that we've kind of brought up?
Sure. I mean, I think it's important to think about times when in past jobs when we've done the impossible, right? I mean, everyone has had their boss come to them and said, oh, this has to be done, right? And it's either it was impossible because there wasn't enough time, or we'd never done anything like that ever before, or for some reason it was just simply not possible, right? We've all had that, right? Yet we successfully did it, right? We've figured it out, right? Yeah. Because we're smart people, right? We've all done that, right? And now we're looking at a job, ad that says, we have to do X, Y, Z, and we've never done that, right? Or it's not close enough. And so our inner critic says, oh, we could never do that. But that's bullshit, right? Because we've done the impossible before, right? And so I think if we can think back to those times in our past careers when we did the impossible, well, clearly we've proven that we can do the impossible, right? So rely on that, right? We're clearly capable of doing the impossible.
Yeah, we're really good at telling ourselves like, oh, I can't do that because I've never done it before or whatever. But yeah, you probably have this bank of examples that you can pull from, right? Where, hey, yeah, here's another time where I did something that I didn't think I was going to be able to do at the time, but it's just a matter of doing it and putting yourself out there. Is it going to go great and perfectly every time? No, but there's no way that you're going to know unless you put yourself out there. So yeah, absolutely. Eric, I don't know if you still had something to share or
I was just going to echo Trent's thoughts that
yeah.
you have moments of doubt going through this process, and you just have to remind myself, like, wait a minute, I was good at my job. They shut down my entire business unit. There's nothing under my control about that.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was good at my job, and I'll be good at my next job, most likely, I hope. So
You
yeah,
will.
I have
Yes,
to
you
remind
will.
myself of that.
Yeah. And yeah, so Tracy put, I've created a Trello board that lists my accomplishments, certifications, words of praise from clients. It's something I can come back to and look at when I get into a funk. That's really great, Tracy, because that is actually what I was gonna, like, that transitions really well into what I was gonna talk about next. So that's great. I think that's something to, especially when you are, whether it's, you've been laid off or you've been unemployed for a while, or maybe, transitioning into something new that feels scary. It can be really hard to remember how awesome you are and all of the skills and great, wonderful qualities that you have. So doing something exactly like what Tracy is doing, whatever method works for you, whether it's a Trello board or like just a folder in your email with all of the nice messages you've gotten or the great positive feedback that you've gotten on performance reviews, all of that stuff, like gather it up. If you haven't done that, do it, right? Because those are the things that will be so helpful to go back to when you do have those days where you just feel like you suck at everything and you just need that pick me up, because we all have those days, right? We're all gonna, and you might have several of those days in a row. So you need something to go to that will help bring you more positive energy. So I'm just going to take a pause for a second here, for you to do that, right? To just take a second for you to write down all of the strengths and accomplishments that you can think of in just a couple of minutes. And this is, whether you already have a file for this stuff or not. If you don't, especially, this is a great time to start just brainstorming like why you're awesome. So just take a minute and do that. And I will say, if you're the type of person that's like, oh, I'm not really going to do that. I don't see how this is helpful. I can't make you do it. But I will say that with all of this stuff, it doesn't work if you don't actually do it. Like, just listening is helpful, but it doesn't really do the trick, right? So I think actually taking time to write down a few notes for yourself to just say why you're awesome. So I'm going to shut up for 2 seconds and let you do that and read through the chat. Oh yeah, website portfolio with that information. Yep. Found the process very validating. Looked at it at the end and suddenly really proud of myself. Yeah, yes, awesome. Yeah. So the process makes you doubt yourself. You have to remind yourself that you're good at what you do. Absolutely. You're all great at what you do. And great at just a lot of things probably that have nothing to do with your job. Just think about how you're awesome in lots of different ways. And if it's something that you struggle with, so if coming up with strengths and accomplishments on your own is something that's hard for you, ask your friends. Find those people, your cheerleaders, the people that are always in your corner that can tell you, you know what, this is why you're awesome. Because there are those days, right, where we're just not feeling it, and maybe we're just having trouble coming up with how we're good at anything. look to those people that you trust and who know you well that can share those things with you. And sometimes it's really insightful because they might share with you things that you didn't think of yourself, or just you've never looked at yourself in that way or seen certain things as strengths and skills that you have, but other people see those in you. So if you've never done that and just straight up asked your friends, do that because it can be so helpful. Lisa, did you have your something that you wanted to share?
Yeah, a couple things. Just one, kind of a sideline to what Mark was saying about some of the really challenging things that he's been through in his life. We've
Yeah.
all had that stuff.
Yeah.
You've ever been through an ugly divorce, if you've ever had, the death of a pet that you had for 20 years, if you've ever been through something that at the time you thought, I don't think I can survive this. But
Mhm.
guess what you did? And if you can survive, I mean, I've got a couple of things. If I survive that, I can survive anything. And if I just say that to myself, I can, I can come out of this and I can actually thrive on the other side because I have before,
Yeah.
and also that Pete, I think, mentioned gratitude.
Yes.
I found that in previous job searches and times, and this is what I'm having trouble with right now, is finding the gratitude from my last job. I had to find the gratitude from when I was looking for a job once before, find the gratitude from it and not the animosity and the resentment, and find out what was there to be grateful about. What did I get from that job or working for that company that I wouldn't have been able to have otherwise? If I were
Yes.
working somewhere else, I wouldn't have been able to have the freedom to take care of my aging parents. And so, there's it it just changes your whole insides about looking for a job if you can find the gratitude.
Yeah, I think that's huge. The gratitude piece. And it may be, like you're talking about finding the gratitude in your last job or, whatever, even if it was like a painful process or, a toxic work environment, seeing if you can find ways to find those pieces of it that were helpful or useful. And if it's too soon for that, that's okay too, right? It's not, if you're struggling with like, I don't know how to be grateful for this opportunity right now or this experience, it's still too fresh or too close, that's okay. I think focusing on gratitude for anything in your life that you're, just truly thankful for, whether it's people in your life or certain experiences or things that you have, just that process of being grateful for those things really can help shift your perspective. And just know if it's something that's new for you, then just give yourself grace. And I think that's kind of the point of all of this too, is giving yourself grace with everything and trying not to judge yourself, because a lot of this is about, just again, like we're all struggling with really hard things. And then we tend to just make it worse because we beat ourselves up for not doing everything perfectly, or, oh, I'm supposed to be doing self-care and I'm not doing that right. So then we judge ourselves for not doing self-care right. And then it's just this vicious cycle, right? So I think just trying to remember, like, we're all human. We're not doing anything perfectly. So just try and remember that and be nice to yourself. And when you recognize, hey, I'm being judgmental, or hey, I'm not able to find gratitude for this experience, that's okay. That's where you are today. Maybe it'll be different tomorrow. Maybe it won't. That's also okay. So all of it is okay. Just I think just really embracing where you are and just noticing, right? And then what are some small steps that you can take to shift perspective or do something different that will help to improve that for you, right? And we already kind of talked about this in terms of the, finding your cheerleaders or those people that support you. But I think it's also about keeping track of small wins. So not just, yes, I think keeping that awesome file is great, but this is kind of a different piece of that, or a different way to look at it, because it's more about like, what did you actually accomplish instead of having this like 50 miles long to-do list, because we've all got those, right? And we're never going to be done with it. And it just makes us feel defeated at the end of the day, because it's like, oh, I only got 2 things done on my to-do list, or maybe I got nothing done on my to-do list. But instead, keeping track of what you actually did do. And even if it's something like, I got out of bed today, right? I brushed my teeth today. I took a shower. Those are great. Some days that is a huge accomplishment, right? So I think just owning that and being okay with like, I did do something today and it was getting out of bed and brushing my teeth. Or it might be something more directly related to your job search, like, oh, I sent an email to a contact, or I made a new connection. I reached out to somebody. I submitted an application for a job that I was interested in. I updated my resume. I did a mock interview. All of those things are great. And there's going to be some days maybe where you don't do as much related to your job search. And that's totally okay too. So I think just normalizing all of that is, if you get nothing else out of this today, that's what I hope for you, is just knowing that wherever you're at is okay. And it's going to be an up and down roller coaster every day. And just knowing that, and knowing that everyone else is also experiencing that. And then we've already been talking about this kind of throughout, and hopefully, I don't know, the age range of people in this group, but I have a lot of like pop culture references in my photos. So hopefully some of you got some of these. If not, that's okay too, because they make sense to me. But if you're not a Saturday Night Live fan from back in the day, then you probably won't get this image, but that's okay. But I think, again, just practicing that self-compassion, and that goes along with the gratitude piece and all of those things. And then finding what works for you. So maybe it's journaling. For me, I really like meditative art practices. So I draw mandalas and color them in and do different sorts of creative work, because my background is in art. So I really love actively doing artistic, creative things in order to be present and be in the moment and kind of get out of my head. It really helps me just get out of that anxiety and those like vicious thoughts that keep, running around in my head, because you have to focus on the activity, right, of doing the art, and you're so entrenched in what you're doing that you tend to forget about what, the worries and the things that you're, ruminating about as it relates to your job search, or frankly, anything else in your life too. And maybe art is not for everybody, right? That just happens to be something I gravitate to. Again, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's none of those things. I'd love to hear what some of you do in terms of getting out of your own head and doing something else.
What all of this is about, by the way, is you're basically practicing cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a school of therapy where you do exactly those things. You look at the emotions, you look at the initial event on there, and you examine the particular thoughts that you have. Many of them are negative thoughts, and you go immediately to that bad place. But the whole point about cognitive behavioral therapy is to be able to look at those thoughts independently of the emotions that are going to race from, that you're going to go into, and say, ask yourself exactly those questions. Is this real? Is there any real data behind this? Or is there some, previous, stuff in your behind that is causing you to go into that bad place? So it causes you to, and then you can create, at least there can be other interpretations of that particular event. And then, that gives you an opportunity to collect yourself and get away from that. But also, meditation, is a big part of CBT. So this is spot on.
Yeah, and I'm seeing, other people like mentioning outdoor activities. That's another big one for me. I think
Get out
connecting
and
with
do photography.
Yeah, connecting with nature, being in nature can be really therapeutic for people. And again, you know, what's one person's jam is not somebody else's. So it's not like, oh, this person's meditating, I should meditate, right? You know, maybe meditation works for you, maybe it doesn't, but it's just finding those things that do work for you. And I think the important part is like taking breaks is not being lazy, right? I think with job searching, we tend to feel like, oh, I need to, and our society just is so focused on productivity, right? And just grinding it out, being busy all the time. And that actually is not helpful, right? Because then we just don't have time to recharge, and we're probably making more mistakes and things that we're doing, and we're just not fully present because we haven't given ourselves the time and the energy to just refocus and rest. So yeah, taking breaks is absolutely critical. It's not something that's like a luxury or like you get to do after you do so many activities with your job search. It should just be part of the process 100%, right? So figure out what those things are that you want to do to take a break and rest and reset and recharge. Tanya, did you have something you wanted to share?
Okay, so just quickly, and I had some of the harshest words that would come out of my mind into me my whole life. I'm 50 years old. So something that worked, and I'm just throwing this out there for people who, and we're talking about cognitive behavior. I did self-hypnosis to basically tell my brain, whenever that comes in, and for the last 10 years, it has absolutely worked. I can't really say a bad thing about myself. I can still be realistic, but when I start saying, you are so pathetic, you're a joke, my brain obviously says, come on, you know that's not true. Quit it.
Mm-hmm.
So it has worked. So if anybody's interested in that and they don't know, I got the idea when my mom stopped smoking. She went to this thing and she'd always smoked, not a lot of willpower, and she quit the next day. So I'm like, well, this has something to go on. Anyway, self-negative talk is not in my vocabulary anymore. I'm still realistic about my faults, but it's not that whole you're a pathetic loser, go away and just die kind of talk. So there you go.
Oh, thanks, Tanya. That's really helpful. Does anyone else have just ideas or suggestions or things that have worked for them? Anything that you want to share with the group? And yeah, oh, it sounded like somebody was unmuting, maybe. Maybe not. Okay. Well, if you do, definitely drop it in the chat, or I'm gonna be wrapping it up here, and then we can take some time to just have more open conversation about that. But I just wanted to share with you a couple of things that I have coming up, if they're of interest or if you feel like they would be helpful to share with others. So I have a couple group coaching opportunities. So one is career clarity. So it's more of a longer term. So it'll be six sessions, group work, to kind of dive into deeper discussions around understanding yourself better, understanding the world of work and the options that kind of relate to who you are and your personality. And then, you know, working together to create action steps towards working towards some of those things. So that's one. And then building interview confidence. So I know a lot of you mentioned that interviewing is a source of stress and anxiety for a lot of people. So that's very true. In my years of working with people, I would say interviewing is probably one of the most anxiety inducing experiences that come up in the job search process. So that group will be just a one-time 2-hour group where we'll work together and do a deeper dive. So it's not just like, okay, we're going to talk about tips and strategies for how to interview. Yes, that's part of it, but it's more kind of unpacking, okay, like what's coming up for you in terms of interviewing, the anxiety, the fear, what's causing that, how can we unpack that, and then strategize in terms of how to think about interviewing itself and not trying to practice for specific questions, but more, how do I approach the interview process in general so I can feel more confident going into any type of an interview situation. So just to kind of explain how that'll be a little bit different. It's not just a straight up like practice interview. All right. Well, that's all I've got for you all today. I'll put my information up here. Oh, I did want to say, so obviously if you want more information about the group, then you can scan the QR code with your phone. I can also send that out after the fact. And then here's my information if you do want to follow up, if you have any questions or if you just want to chat some more, then feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to talk about this presentation or anything career development related. So thanks, everybody.
Tara, thank you so much. I think that was really helpful for everybody. Trent, can you stop recording? And I'll hand it back to Trent.
Hi there. How you doing? Sure.
What we do is we go into open networking now. And if you have any thoughts for organizers, you can stick around. But everyone's free to pipe up, chime in.
I've got an interview in a couple hours. Wish me luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
What's it for, Eric?
It's for a position, remote position out of Kansas, doing Oracle Apex application, web application development.
Are you excited for it? Are you interested in the position?
I am. I'm a little mixed because it's interesting. The rate is low, but to be doing that work right now, it'd be good. Like it's something that I'm interested in. It's a technology I just got certified in, so it's good to get a little of that, purely that stuff under my belt.
Yeah. Well, and every interview is just a chance to hone your skills in interviewing, right?
Right.
And I'm sorry, Eric, you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself earlier. Would you like to take 20 seconds to say what you're looking for? What
Sure.
company?
Gosh, I didn't think I missed enough of the meeting to have missed everybody introducing themselves. Hi, my name is Eric Richardson. I live in Fort Collins, Colorado. I see some familiar faces on the meeting because I've been to Longs Peak Net as well as NorcoNet. And I am a software engineer by trade with a background. I've been a technical manager, done a lot of technical leadership, and specifically in some areas of Oracle technology stack and also Salesforce. So, but general software development too. And I think this is my first BoulderNet meeting, to be honest. And I may have had the same problem before where I thought I signed up for one of the Meet Me group meetings, and then I went here to come to the meeting, and it turned out I never got the information in email, and so I was wondering, like, well, do I just go to the meetup page? I looked at the attendees, and I wasn't on it, so I don't know what I'm a great software engineer. I guess I'm not very good at Meet Me or Meetup.
One thing that's really good about Meetup is you can add it to your calendar, both ICS and the Google Calendar.
Mhm.
There's another kind too.
I did. I added it to my calendar. That's how I knew it was happening, but I wasn't an attendee. So.
And the default is to not have a reminder on it.
Huh?
At least on Outlook.
Was there anyone else who didn't have a chance to introduce themselves? Like to now? Oh, Laura.
Laura.
You did.
Hi. Yeah, my name's Laura. I'm an interface designer, otherwise known as UX designer or product designer. You know, it has several different names. I've been doing this for many years. Prior to that, I was a web designer. Prior to that, I was a visual designer. So I have visual design chops, front-end coding chops, and also user research and user testing chops. And so I'm looking for, you know, obviously work in the software field. I live in Lafayette. So, you know, and I filled out the thing, you know, North Metro area work or remote work is good for me. I also have decent chops in copywriting and copy editing. So I've done that as well as far as writing micro copy in software applications as well. So that's the kind of job I'm looking for again.
Okay, fantastic. Any thoughts for Laura?
I've been curious in the past if people on here like me, when they see somebody who does the similar work that they do or in the same field and interest, do they like to connect with other folks that are looking in the same area? Because there's somebody else from I've been in touch with it from NorcoNet that is also in UX design and stuff like that.
Of course, you should connect because it's coopetition. You're helping each other. The company will decide who they want to hire. 2 heads are better than 1, 3 heads are better than 2.
Right, and if one of you gets in someplace, then they have reference for you.
Yep.
Whoever gets in first.
Well, there's 2 Lauras on the contact sheet. Which one are you, Laura?
I'm Laura Klum
Okay.
with a Q.
Okay, I'll send you a message on the side.
Oh, thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. Actually, you and I could probably help each other as well, just because, you know, we're looking for the same companies, not the same position. So that's even better, really.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
And
Eric,
Trent?
that's a really good observation based off of names. And we don't typically say things like, hey, throw in your last name, because some of the names that are more common, it is a little bit harder to find individuals. So that's a great observation. We might start adding that in just if we end up with multiple Amy's, multiple anything else. But thanks for that feedback.
Did we miss anyone else, or did anyone else that didn't introduce themselves earlier want to introduce themselves now?
Yeah. Hey, Trent, I did kind of half an introduction. I'll do it real quick. I'm Mark Lauterbach. I run LongspeakNet. I'm also a job search coach. I put in the chat the information on LongspeakNet for the next meeting to get the reminders. I just reposted that. I also put a LinkedIn quiz in there about, do you have a job search plan? I've asked almost 5,000 people that. The people are honest. Less than 2% actually have a job search plan. But if you would, go ahead and fill out that question. And Mary Krista invited me to come because she wanted me to hear Kara Johnson speak, to ask her if she'd like to speak at LongspeakNet. So what does the group think? Thumbs up. Give us some emojis. Kara didn't know she was actually being viewed. And what is it when you get on stage and
I was auditioning.
you're auditioning for us? Okay, we only have a couple thumbs up, Kara. I'm not sure the group's there yet.
Oh, so sad.
Come on, emojis, something.
It takes time to find those reactions.
It does.
Oh, there we go. There we go. They're starting to pop. Oh, you got 17 so far. I think you're a winner. I'll send you an email and we can talk.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, thanks, Kara.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I attended the workshop you did, Kara. Is it Kara or Kara?
It's Kara.
Kara, sorry. Yeah, about a month ago.
Oh, my Rebel one?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that was something I didn't mention for those of you. So something else that I do is I partner with a entrepreneurship education group out of the UK called Rebel Business School. And so I do some facilitation for them, and I'm probably going to be doing a little bit more of that coming up. So if entrepreneurship is something that anyone is interested in, Rebel Business School is actually really cool because they run entrepreneurship courses for free for anyone that's interested in it. So right now, because they're out of the UK, their courses, like the time frame for them is a little bit tricky for those here in the US. But we're working on piloting some courses in a different time frame. So those are the ones that I'm going to be facilitating. So we're just starting piloting those. But I can also send information out about that if anyone has interest. So sorry, I forgot to mention that one during my talk.
Fantastic. Any other? Go for it.
Well, if this is networking time, and I know this is supposed to go to 10:30. My question is, I'm breaking into data analytics, and so I'm doing a boot camp and learning and getting really good at Python and TensorFlow and all that stuff. I've always been with data, but it was with Excel. Does anybody have any advice on how to transition into that? I've led businesses. I've been responsible P&L, but I really love data. So that's why I'm transitioning into that.
Have you talked to the Workforce Center about potentially getting an internship?
Not an internship. I did the Workforce Center and they were fantastic. And they actually paid for my boot camp.
Mhm.
Because I'm underemployed. But so internships, I will certainly look into that.
Yeah, because that's another part of what they offer is to match companies and people, and the part of it's paid for the state's paying for, the monies are paid for the employer,
Right.
right? So it's a free internship for the company for up to 6 months.
Do I have to be a member, like live in the county of that Workforce Center?
Yes,
Oh.
you have to apply in the county that you live in.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the one thing. County monies are granted by county. So you can,
Mhm.
and Jill Shafter went through an internship, so she might be able to help you if Jill. I guess I'm volunteering Jill, but Jill went through an internship. And
Yes, I
maybe she
did.
can
Yeah, I
help.
can help answer questions, but Mark's correct. You do have to live in the county where the funding is coming from.
Did the internship, like what? Never mind. I understand.
Yeah, we can meet outside of the meeting to talk about it more.
Okay, thank you.
Kara, sorry to interrupt. I think that you are now the host. I dropped out again. I had an internet hookup, hang up,
Okay.
which means I think I wasn't able to stop the recording. If you could go and stop the recording.